What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Real Lord Reviews. I am your host, John Lord. I never stop talking movies, and I love to make lists and rankings, so I figured I'd try to give this whole world a shot. Plus, YouTube seemed to be lacking a little bit on movie review channels, so thank you for taking the time to check this out, and I super appreciate it when there's a million other channels you could be using your time on. Anyways, with the upcoming release of the Paul Rudd and Jack Black led Anaconda reboot, today seems like it was a good day to dive deep into the Amazon and straight into the one that started this franchise, Anaconda, 1997. Doing a follow-up review for the sequel, The Hunt for the Blood Orchid, as well as a review for the new one once it's released on Christmas Day. And then I'll be capping this all off with a ranking of all 5 movies in the series, but I will not be giving a solo review to numbers 3 and number 4, because they're just that bad. They're not worth a solo review. I have seen them, but they're not worth their own videos. It'd just be 5 minutes of me shitting on the movie, and that 5 minutes is like, if I stretched it out, like, there's really not much to go on in those movies, so I will include them in my ranking, but they won't have their own review. All that out of the way, as for the original Anaconda, 1997, I know it's definitely a guilty pleasure, but I'm not guilty of telling you the pleasure I get out of enjoying Anaconda, 1997. So let's just get into it. With our pros section, first off, I'm just a big fan of creature feature and animal attack type movies, so I'm just naturally predisposed to liking this type of movie. Even when it's bad, it still has some fun going on. Old school, like, 90s thriller vibe, shocking because it came out in the 90s, where they actually spent the money and time to go to a location and film instead of just drowning everything in really bad CGI. And I really appreciate the fact that there's a full-blown animatronic that they use here. Sure, the snake does look a little silly at times, but I mean, it did scare the shit out of me as a kid, so it's got that going for it. And I don't mind that so much. I would rather they do occasionally silly practical work rather than cheap and bad CGI. It's the first thing that will ruin a horror movie for me nowadays. And they don't rely on it too much either, so yeah. The basic concept of a documentary crew going on an expedition. It's a cliche, which isn't always a bad thing for me. It doesn't matter, this movie was never going to be, or needed to be, groundbreaking story-wise. It's simple, it works, and it's entertaining enough. The movie has a really good cast going on. The characters are meh, not very memorable, nothing really stands out besides one of them. But there's a lot of talent and personality in the actors playing these roles. Jon Voight just chewing the scenery and just cheesing all over the place. But that's exactly what this movie needed to stop itself from taking it too seriously with... It's a giant snake movie. It's not that serious. This was Owen Wilson's, like, second or third movie, and it's really fun to see his roots here. He has a smaller role as a kind of gullible sound man who aligns himself with Jon Voight's Snake Hunter, and it's a interesting pairing. Jonathan Hyde as the snobby and prickish host, Westridge, is probably my favorite character in this movie. It's a blast just to see how fucking snobby and a bit of a dick this guy is. He's great here, and it was funny as a kid to see the guy from The Mummy and Jumanji get eaten by a giant snake. Spoilers, I guess. I've always been a big fan of Ice Cube, and he's in this being Ice Cube. So, it's fun. Little fun fact, the role played by Ice Cube was originally offered to Chris Farley, who had to turn it down due to scheduling conflicts with Beverly Hills Ninja. I actually think he made the right choice on that one. I love that movie. I've never been the biggest fan of J-Lo. I don't hate her. I just don't particularly care for her either. And she does okay enough here. She does good with what she's given. It's just, you're in a big monster movie. There's not going to be a lot given to you. And finally, for the last little bit of casting, the Anaconda screams are actually done by Frank Welker. So the Scooby-Doo mega fan in me just, it makes me love it even more. That's just awesome. And my last pro, this movie has some genuinely tense moments going on despite how silly it is throughout. It has some really gripping moments. The big waterfall scene, especially, is probably like the most obvious standout choice. That one's really good. And the finale, I think the finale is really well done, and I like the location it actually takes place in. Instead of being on the boat like the entire movie has, it's what do you call it? It's like a mill, like an oil mill or something like that. I'm not an expert on Amazonian factories. Okay, and now into the cons. First and foremost, this movie has not nearly enough Danny Trejo in it. He shows up for like 45 seconds in the beginning, and it's just disappointing. I love me some Danny Trejo. Who doesn't? He should have been Mateo at least, but I was 4, so I had no say in the casting. Next, there are some production errors in this movie that just really make it feel amateurish at times. Obviously, the big one is the waterfall sequence where to show the boat leaving where it was trapped, they just played the footage in reverse, so the waterfall's going up. What? Going along with that, there are just some basic logic issues when you put more than 2 seconds of thought into what's going on. Like John Voight's plan to get picked up at the beginning on their boat. Like, what if the crew just ended up taking a different way? Like, Homeboy would be stuck chilling on the Amazon with his really bad accent forever. Film just needed a little bit more thought put into some of those ideas. And my last con is, despite the fact that I do enjoy these cheesy movies, this one is a little bit on the schlockier side than some of the other ones from that era. No, not really. Alright, so the bottom line, despite it being cheesy and clearly not a revered masterpiece, it's also not the dumpster fire of a movie that a lot of people seem to make it out to be. It's fun, it's nostalgic, and it delivers exactly what an animal attack monster movie should. A big snake, a lot of screaming, and at least one actor way too overcommitted to this material. But if you're like me, and you like creature features, or you just want some cozy 90s cheese, this is one that still will hit for you. I would go with 2 3/4 stars out of 5. Decent time killer. Thank you, and join me next time when we talk about the sequel, Anacondas, The Hunt for Blood